Larry North has been helping people become healthier for over 25 years. He's done this with 3 best-selling books, seminars, and gyms. These people were no different than you. The only difference is they chose to make a change in their life. Now it's your turn. Don't put it off any longer. Let Larry help you become an even better you. Here's Larry North.
Hey everyone, it's Larry North on the Better You Show. It's a delight and a pleasure to be here this Sunday evening. It's a little past 7 o'clock. We're going to have a great show for you. We're going to open up our lines a little bit later, maybe in about 15, 20 minutes. So you're going to want to get on a line and talk to my special guest. He's my friend. He's a researcher. He has been helping people stay extraordinarily healthy for a long time. I call him a life extender because we can't, everyone's going to have their time. But by what he does is he extends life for a lot of people. And he's also a wellness expert, a heart health expert, and a regular guest on my show. John Duncan, how are you, my friend?
Larry, I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah, you look good. You just dressing sharp and looking sharp. You got a nice glow to yourself, and it's always a pleasure to have you in studio.
It's always an honor to be on your show.
Well, it's that time of year. Holidays coming up, and here's what's interesting. So for people listening, ViaScan is John's company, and what John does is you get a scan. You could do a full body. You could check for cancer. You can do a heart scan to check for how your heart is doing and calcium and buildup in your arteries and veins. And here's what's interesting. We know that stress is a big factor. And John, do you find that just in the last couple months with this election, I mean, we're just do you remember anything like this in your lifetime?
Not in my lifetime. I've been on the planet a few years here now and seen a few presidential elections, and I think that stress level that everybody has is off the charts. And it does take a toll on your health, on your heart in particular. And I think the country will be glad when Tuesday's over.
They will. Plus, the timing, well, I don't know. The stress might just be beginning because it's so divided that regardless who ends up winning, I think half the country is going to be stressed and the other half's just going to be not sure of themselves because it's sort of like the hold your nose vote. You're going to go and vote, and you should. But and then the economic, the Obamacare, and this isn't a political show, but just the holidays. Just in a perfect scenario, this is usually a more stressful time of year, and you've been researching for a long time, so people, this might be the best time of year to maybe get checked.
Well, I think it is, Larry. There's 2 groups of people that are out there listening now that stress can affect. There are people that stress can have a devastating impact on your overall health, makes your blood pressure go up, causes heart attacks, can cause cancers, all kinds of negative health implications. And then there are people that deal with the same stress. They listen to the presidential campaign as well, and they are able to internalize and to deal with the stress, and so they manage the stress rather than stress manage them. So it's kind of hard to know which group you're in, and the way to do it is come in, get a ViaScan. We can check your heart and find out which group you're in.
Let me understand something, because maybe I'm missing something. With all the science, the technology, the diagnostic capabilities, and the gyms and trainers and exercisers and healthy eating and apps that can really educate you and learn how to be healthy on YouTube even these days, why has the fact that the heart disease is still the number one killer that for women, for men, for everyone? It still kills a lot of people annually. Why?
Real simple. It's a hidden enemy. People don't know they have it. The first time they understand they have a heart problem, they feel chest pain and drop dead suddenly. 1/3 of the people, according to the American Heart Association. So it's not a symptom you want to wait on. And then the second thing is that the only test in the world that can see it is the ViaScan type of test. For the first time in history, we can see this plaque when it's 0.7 millimeters in size, years or decades before symptoms would appear, heart attacks occur, or bypass surgery would be required. So this scan is the first and only preventive tool that people have at their disposal. Stress tests can't see it. We all know one of the presidential candidates, her husband, President Clinton, had a nuclear stress test, which is considered by cardiologists to be the gold standard, for 8 years while he was in office, past 8 years running. 3 years
every year.
Every year. 3 months after he's out of office, he gets chest pain. Checked himself in to the hospital. They do an emergency cardiac catheterization. Found 5 places that were significantly blocked, 198% that required emergency bypass. It was missed for 8 years with the stress test. So stress tests are not all that accurate because they can't see the disease.
Yet it's still being done pretty regularly.
Every day.
Every day. Now, let me ask you this. So there's these major, we have great hospitals in Dallas. In fact, you have a relationship with many cardiologists throughout the North Texas area, and people even fly in from outside the area to come visit you. But, some of the major hospitals, they have scans, don't they?
Larry, they don't have like a ViaScan. The ViaScan is unique. It's the only type of a scan in all of North Texas. And what makes it unique is the speed and the safety. The ViaScan is the fastest scanner in the world, and why that's important when you're trying to take a picture of the heart, which is always in motion. If you don't have adequate speed, you'll have blurred pictures. And so the ViaScan scans at the speed of light. We don't have a problem with motion artifacts, so we get clear pictures where we can see a little dot of a piece of calcium, and the other scanners at the hospitals simply cannot. And then the other thing that the ViaScan, importantly from a public health perspective, why we do public health screening is to find a significant health problem, heart attacks, to prevent them before they ever occur, but to do it safely. And the radiation exposure that people get with my ViaScan is equivalent to the radiation women get when they undergo a mammogram. So we refer to the ViaScan as the mammogram of the heart. It's very safe.
Very safe. And, so Brenda, my significant other, she did the scan the same day I did, and she scored a 0. So what does that represent? But yet in her family, there was a bit of a history of heart disease in her family, yet she scored a 0.
Larry, the listeners need to understand the ViaScan is not an experimental or something that just was developed a year or two back. We have 20 years of data on the ViaScan, and it is so persuasive that we have professional medical guidelines from the American Heart Association and the American College of Cardiology recommending people get this scan done for early detection because it can save lives.
I don't know if I ever told you this. So in my family, my genetic tree, the cancer is definitely in there, but heart disease wasn't. Like nobody ever had a heart attack. Then my uncle, at age 70, who was the oldest sibling on my mother's side, she's going to be 83 next week. My aunt's going to be 90 in February, so they have longevity. At 70, he's in a restaurant, he has a heart attack, he dies instantly, instant death, boom. And yet no one, so he never even thought to go get checked because he basically believed that there was no history of heart disease in our family.
Well, the beauty of the ViaScan, Larry, is that it personalizes medicine for the first time. I mean, we've read all these research papers and newspaper articles about the coming age of personalized medicine. Well, it's here now. We've been doing it since 2001. And so most of the things that you read are population statistics. If you have certain factors, then the doctor treats you're a high risk for a heart attack. If you don't have those risk factors, they say you're low risk. Well, you and I both know there's always exceptions to every rule when you look at population statistics. So what ViaScan does, we throw out all the population. We look at each person, regardless of what they have, and we see the disease that causes a heart attack, and we see it early so you won't get one.
Hey, I was in your office. Guy was before me, very nice man. I'm going to say 70s. And we started, he recognized me. I think he didn't recognize me. He recognized my voice. He goes, "Are you that radio guy? Are you Larry North?" I said, "Yeah." And we start talking. He goes, "Man," he goes, "I'm so glad I came here today." I said, well, what do you do?" He goes, "Well, I've been running marathons for decades, and I'm in my 70s. I'm a triathlete." He looked lean. He looked fit. He looked young for his age, I thought. And he goes, "I'm so glad I came in here." He goes, I'm actually from here. I'm going to go see a cardiologist." I said, "Well, what happened?" He goes, "I would have never thought." He goes, I ate really good. I've been a endurance athlete for most of my life, which is a good 40, 50 years. And I had a lot of buildup that it was only recognized through the scan." He goes, "I've had a stress test, pretty much every year, and I've always passed it with flying colors."
Listen, Larry, it's always more accurate when we can see the disease that, if left untreated, will take its natural course and cause a heart attack or require surgery. And so by seeing this disease early, we personalize each person's health. There are a lot of people out there with high cholesterol taking cholesterol-lowering drugs. Why? Because, again, cholesterol is a statistical guess that you do or you don't have this plaque. Well, the ViaScan eliminates the guess. We see, seeing trumps guessing. So these people that have zero coordinated calcium scores and high cholesterol, they can treat that cholesterol with something other than a prescription cholesterol drug.
Which nobody wants to take those drugs. I certainly hope they don't.
I don't find very many people that would voluntarily agree to take them if they're not necessary.
Right. Well, you had mentioned the president, but now doesn't the president, aren't they required to do a ViaScan now over and above just the traditional stress test? Starting with
President Bush Sr. back in the late 90s, from that time to Obama, every president has had a ViaScan type of test.
I scored an 11, which you told me not to be alarmed, but it was a little surprising. Here, I eat the same way Brendan, when we live in the same house. I mean, I as you know, I certainly work out pretty regularly. I'm fit. I think I look good for my age. I feel good.
You do look good.
Well, thank you, sir, as you do. But 11... You sort of, as you walked me through my scan, and we looked at the everything that there was to see, and it was one. I felt better to know, because then I have something that I can manage now. I'll come back again in about another 7 or 8 months, because it's been about 3 or 4 months. But I actually took your advice, and I realized that I come from the low fat generation, and that works for aesthetically. I'm lean, but inside I did need some healthier oils. So I started eating macadamia nut oil a little bit more, avocados a little bit more, olive oil a little bit more. Feel better, and ironically even got leaner in the process just by having a little bit better balance. So it's going to be now, as I get to my next scan, I want to improve. Can I go from an 11 to a 9, or am I stuck at am I managing the 11 to not go to 14 or 18 or 100, or can I actually go down?
The beauty of the ViaScan is just what you've indicated. What we've seen is that when people see this disease on a monitor, it's not something that's hypothetical or theoretical. It's real. And so for the first time in history that we sit down and talk to patients that has high blood pressure or diabetes or something, now they take the medicine when they see the plaque. There's a need.
I've got to do a quick timeout, because I also want to talk about the fact that you can do a colonoscopy. You can actually check your body fat more thoroughly than any other measurement tool, as well as identify cancer in the body as well. So it's not just heart. It actually can be everything. 214-787-1080. My number is 214-787-1080. You're listening to KRLD and my expert, John Duncan, PhD, right here on the Better You Show. Everyone, Larry North here on KRLD with my guest, John Duncan from ViaScan. We're talking about your heart health. We're talking about health. John, I was having lunch with a trainer recently. You know him. His name's Jimmy Campbell. And your name came up. And he goes, I know ViaScan. I've sent a lot of people there. He's saved a lot of lives. And then you sent me this beautiful text of a client that came in who I'd like you to share her experience, because I actually took the text and I Facebooked it to let people see that, this is real. This really happened. And a lot of people commented on it and a lot of people were touched by it.
Well, Larry, it is a true story. I have a lady that it's kind of a custom that I'll ask them when I sit down and give them a preliminary review of their images, how she learned about ViaScan. And so when I asked her that question, she said that she heard us on the Larry North show. And I said, well, so then what brings you in here? She said, well, I've been having some chest pain. And when I heard you on the Larry North show, I thought, well, what better way to check it out and get a true understanding of what my heart status is than to get a ViaScan. And so I said, well, I would agree that it was maybe a divine intervention on your behalf and Larry's show as well, because you have a considerable amount of calcium plaque in your coronary arteries that I'm concerned that maybe the symptoms that you're having, the chest pain, may be related to. So we immediately got a hold of a cardiologist here in town, a very well-known group, and got her an appointment to see the cardiologist immediately. And she got in, was checked out, and looks like it was a good thing she came into ViaScan.
Wow. It was just inherent. She sort of knew that she needed to come.
Yes, but it's a verification, because when you can see it on a TV monitor, then you know.
Why is it? So, John, I am a big advocate of yours, and I'm constantly telling people to get checked, go get a ViaScan. At least better to know than not know. Some people are scared to know.
Well, they are, and I tell them that you will know at some point in time. So the time, if you don't come in and get a ViaScan when you find out, you're probably not going to like the outcome.
I agree with you, my friend. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to talk more about heart health, ViaScan, and what people can do to take charge of their health right after this on KRLD. Hey everyone, this is Larry North. You're listening to the Better You Show with Larry North and my guest, John Duncan. He's a PhD. He's owner of ViaScan. By the way, a few people have called in and asked, how do they get a hold? It's very simple. In fact, there's a lot of information on the website. Just go to 123bodyscan.com and you can easily get information. You'll find out it's right there in Las Colinas, so it's pretty centrally located. I think you're close to the airport because you got people flying in to actually do ViaScan, because if you live in Oklahoma or Louisiana, you may not have a ViaScan available.
Last week we had a lady fly in from London. So
no kidding.
We have people come in from all over the world.
Well, that's another thing I want to explain. So you don't just get the scan and they hand it to you and say goodbye. You actually sit down and you get what I refer to it as a wellness consultation, pretty much.
You know, we sort of have an executive fitness program, and it's similar to the Cooper Clinic, and I'm a little familiar with that since I worked there
for 15 years.
15 years. So we've kind of streamlined it, but it's very comprehensive. Like you say, we get a medical history. We measure your body weight, your body fat. We take a nutrition questionnaire. We check your cholesterol, blood pressure, family history, and then we do the scan. And then what we do is we put all that information together and sit down with you and give you an initial read with a personalized wellness approach that's tailored from the result of the scan.
Well, you know what? And we've had private conversations about this, and we're both huge fans of Dr. Ken Cooper and the Cooper Clinic. And listen, I bet I've sent no less than 100 of my own trainers over the years to get their certification at the Cooper Clinic for personal training. But they do have a physical. Now, that physical is not affordable for most people. I mean, in fact, a lot of my well-to-do friends get that physical every year. And what you wanted to be able to do is make sure that everybody could go and get the same results from that type of physical. The only thing that expensive physical doesn't have is ViaScan, to my knowledge.
Well, that's the beauty of ViaScan, Larry, is that you get a lot of what you would, but without the price tag. And that was the intent of ViaScan, was to make it affordable to the average everyday person. Look, we still take care of executives of the largest corporations in the world, movie stars, entertainers, professional athletes, and so on. But I'm proud to say that we take care of mainstream America as well.
I've met some of
that is something that was the intent of ViaScan from the very beginning.
Well, also, too, is this a better time of year for some people? Because let's say, for example, they've used their deductible up, and is this like, again, I'm not. You are so up on insurance plans. I'm sort of not. So sort of share with me, if people are listening right now and really do need to maybe there's a listener that hasn't had a checkup in 10 years, maybe longer. Maybe there's a spouse listening going, God, I just wish my spouse would please go get this done. Would this be the better time of year to do that?
It's a fantastic time of year for all the reasons that you mentioned. Most people have flexible savings accounts or tax-free money they put in. You might call it a cafeteria plan, or might have some other designation. But basically, if you don't use that money that you set aside that's tax-free for some health purpose by December 31st, that money's gone. So this is a wonderful time of year, not to just use it because it's sitting there, but the test that we do at ViaScan could ultimately save your life.
Right, and it's not expensive. I mean, in the real reality, I mean, if a listener's listening today, because you always give my listeners a discount, if they're listening today and they only wanted to do the heart, which, if I'm correct, the heart actually is covered under insurance because of you lobbying for it in the state of Texas, it's covered. But what would they be looking at?
Larry, I'm happy to say that if the listeners call in this week, we'll have the Larry North special. Normally, the charge for a body scan that would include the heart, the lungs, and all the organs to do a cancer scan of the chest and abdomen would be $895, which is a very reasonable price when you consider that the scan is the most technologically advanced scanner on the planet. It's a $2 million scanner. So we purposely try to put it at a price point, as I said earlier, so it's not going to break the bank. But I'm proud to give the Larry North listeners a special $695.
That's
and
fantastic.
Let's not forget the veterans this week. It's Veterans Day on Friday. Let's knock another $100 off for the veterans. $595 for a body scan.
That's
I don't know where you can get.
You can't. And by the way, for anyone listening, so here's how it works. Because I've done it, and I'm going to do it every year for the rest of my life. You go in and you fill out a few forms, and we're talking not you're not writing your life story out. It's maybe 2 or 3 pages, and that's customary. Nice, comfortable waiting room. You go in, a technician greets you. You keep your clothes on. You lay down, and it took me, I'm thinking, under 15 minutes. Am I about right? Maybe 15,
right.
16,
the scan itself, Larry, 30 seconds, hold your breath.
Yeah, hold your breath, and maybe we did that half a dozen times or however many times.
Well, about 2 times.
Yeah, and then you just wait. You get the results back pretty instantly.
3 minutes.
And then you sit down in the office and you walk them through it, and it's actually somewhat fascinating because you're seeing your body right there, and I don't know what you call it because it catches it like every aspect, like every
slice.
Yeah, every slice of your body, so nothing is missed. Nothing's is missed. Overlooked. There's no false negatives at all.
We see things that are very important to your long-term health in your life. We find cancers when they're curable, stage 1, tiny. 2 weeks ago, we found a chronic lifelong smoker, had a small little lung cancer, sent him off to the surgeon, surgically removed, hadn't spread anywhere. He should have a very good outcome.
Well, when we come back, we know that there's people that could live a healthy life, not smoke, no history in their family, eat correctly, not be overweight, and sometimes you detect stuff that is life savings. But when we come back, I want to know, there's got to be some common threads for those that really do end up getting the scan and going directly to the cardiologist or even to the emergency room. And when we come back, can we go through some of those common sort of maybe some tips on what not to do if you want to sort of live longer?
Sure. Be happy to.
John Duncan's my guest. He's with ViaScan. By the way, that's 123bodyscan.com. Go to the website, book an appointment. Look, you get great information on the site. I'm Larry North, and you're listening to The Better You on KRLD. Hey, everyone. Larry North here with my guest, John Duncan. He's a highly educated man. He worked actually at the Cooper Clinic for years. You did? Were you a researcher? Mm-hmm. Is that what you primarily did?
Yeah, I was chief of a clinical research program at the Cooper Institute from 80 to 95.
How did you pick your topics? Were they selected for you based on grants, or did you guys decide, hey, this seems like an area we want to research, and just research it?
I was an independent investigator, so I was had the sole responsibility of dreaming up the research that I wanted to be involved in, and I then would commit that idea to paper. I then would put on my salesman hat and shop it and get the grant funded, whether it was from the National Institute of Health, American Heart, or some pharmaceutical company, or a private foundation, not the Clinton Foundation. But we would get the study funded. I would be the chief investigator to oversee the entire project until it was finished. I did the statistical analysis. I wrote the paper and got it published.
Wow, that's amazing. That's awesome. And you did that for a long time.
15 years.
15 years. And is there any particular study that really stood out that made you most proud?
Well, Larry, it's a feather in your cap. The two most prestigious medical journals in the world are the Journal of American Medical Association, the official publication from the AMA, and the New England Journal of Medicine. And to get an article published in there is really difficult.
Huge. That's a big deal.
Only 5% of all the manuscripts that are submitted get published. I've had 2 publications in that esteemed journal.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
May I ask what they were?
The first one, my expertise was in high blood pressure, and I had an idea that exercise chronically would have the same impact on blood pressure as many commonly prescribed drugs like a beta blocker. Beta blockers lower your blood pressure because they impact the neural input to your heart. So I had the idea that exercise, because I would deal with professional and elite athletes, Olympic athletes, and I would observe that because they were so fit, their resting heart rates might be 38 or 40 or 42. Well, if a cardiologist in a hospital would evaluate a patient that had a heart rate such as that, they thought that they were probably dead. But why an athlete is not only not dead, but has the most efficient pump in the world is because their heart is like a big motor. Every time that it contracts and beats, it squeezes out 2, 3, 4 times the amount of blood, so it doesn't have to work as fast.
Wow.
And so I just kind of expected that if that were the case, that these neural inputs would, so it was really a sophisticated big deal. We look at the sympathetic nervous system.
And you also had, just if you said 80 to 95, right?
Yes.
So if I remember correctly, there's some Super Bowl cowboy teams. You worked with a lot of pro athletes.
Right.
In fact, the rumor used to be that Roger Staubach had like the record of the stress test for many, many years. Was that true?
He did, and it was kind of interesting. He kind of had a very friendly rivalry with one of the referees in the NFL, Jim Tunney.
Right.
And they would come in and they would see who could stay on the treadmill the longest, and it was kind of interesting to see if it was the athlete or the referee.
Oh, and the athlete did win sometimes,
I think
right?
the athlete pretty much won most of the time.
But that referee was in good shape, too.
He was in really good shape.
Well, so now this sort of makes so much sense for people listening. So you've been trying to come up with ways and discoveries for a healthier you, basically. And then you started ViaScan how long ago?
I started ViaScan in 2001, so we just celebrate our 15th year.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. So in the course of a year, and I know each year might vary, how many people do you think come in, get the scan, and end up really having to go to a cardiologist, sort of like the woman who came in not too long ago because she heard it on the show? How many people do you think in the last year whose lives have been tremendously impacted by the fact that they chose to do something about it?
Every week, Larry.
Really?
There's not a week.
Every week.
There are some individuals, Larry, that we literally, after we initially reviewed it and the doctor reviewed it, they were sitting in the chair. And one case that I remember, a fella that was in his late 60s, early 70s, and his daughter came in with him, and he couldn't figure out, had multiple tests with the medical community, couldn't figure out what his cause of his symptoms were. And so we pretty quickly figured out he had an abdominal aneurysm that was about to pop. So after that was reviewed by the doctors, I turned to his daughter and said, I hope you don't have any plans, because after this evaluation, you're going to need to take your dad straight to the emergency room and have surgery.
Wow.
And so they did. They took him straight to the emergency room. He had an emergency abdominal aortic repair that saved his life.
Man, that's a great story. Believe it or not, we only have one more segment left. John Duncan is my guest. ViaScan is his company. Just go to the website. I believe it's something that all of us should do. Now, if you're 25 years old, you probably don't need a ViaScan. But if you're 45 years old, you probably do need a ViaScan. 123bodyscan.com. And we come back. We'll wrap up with our guest.
Wow.
Hey everyone, Larry North here. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. My guest is John Duncan. He's a regular guest, and the reason he's a regular guest is he saves lives, and he has something great to say and share with you. John, one of the things that I'd like to end the show on is things that you've just been doing this for so long. You've not only have written the research that's been published, but you've read the research that's been published. If people want to stay heart healthy, what are 3 or 4 or 5 tips that you would say, hey, don't do this and do this?
Well, I think it starts with getting a scan, because you have absolutely no idea. Like you said before, it could be that you have all these risk factors and have absolutely no plaque, so you've been worried for nothing. Or you can think that you're skating through life because of no cholesterol, no blood pressure, no family history, and no symptoms. And you think that you're completely healthy, and you may be one step from a heart attack. So there are no guarantees in life. The only way to know what your health status is to get a scan. A scan looks inside your body, as simple as that sounds, and we're able to see if you have plaque, if you have cancer, if you have aneurysms, gallstones, kidney stone, whatever it is, so we can tell what your health status is at that particular time. And that is absolutely invaluable, rather than guessing that you are or are not in good health. And then after that, the most powerful medicine in the world that has been shown repeatedly is not a pill or a scalpel. It's exercise. And we showed that at Cooper Clinic. We published it again in the esteemed journal JAMA, the official publication, the AMA, showing that when we followed people there, that if people exercise 35, 40 minutes, 5 days a week, Larry, they have a 60% lower chance of death from any cause, no matter whether it's heart attacks, cancers, or any other cause of death.
Let me ask you a question. I'm a walker. I've shared that with you. And I'm not a fast walker. I walk 3 to 3.5 miles a day, 4 to 5 days a week. There was a time back in the 70s and maybe even up to the 80s where you're still a runner. I mean, you've been jogging for many years, and your sort of Cooper Clinic clique of PhDs and physicians and people think you guys were runners, let's face it. Yeah, and so you might have ran past me a bunch. Would you have sort of behind my back made fun of me in the sense that thinking that it wasn't doing a whole lot for me? Because I think there's a lot of people listening thinking, well, they're not joggers, they're not runners, and maybe they're not even the big CrossFit high intensity exercises, but maybe they walk in the malls, they walk in the neighborhood, or maybe they're like me, they just like to walk.
Larry, I'm happy to share with you and the listeners that was yet another study I had published in the AMA journal JAMA, where we took a group of women and we put them in different walking groups. A group walked at what we call a strolling pace, 3 miles an hour. They didn't even break a sweat. They didn't get their heart rate in the training zone. A second group we called brisk walkers, 15-minute mile walkers,
That's
4 mile an
fast,
hour.
Actually, yeah.
They got in the training zone about in the middle. A third group, race walkers, they walked at 5 miles an hour, 12-minute per mile pace. That's very fast. They were at the upper end of the training heart rate zone. When we looked at cardiac risk factors for heart attack, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, body fat, and so on, at the end of 6 months, the strollers that didn't break a sweat and get their heart rate in the training zone got the same protection on all those variables across the board.
News.
It's a wonderful public health message.
Gosh,
it changed the world guidelines after that study was published, and because before then the message was no pain, no gain, primarily from athletes.
And some people still believe that.
Now we trade that message for train, don't strain.
I like that. Or how about no pain is gain?
There you go.
I like that. And then obviously don't smoke, eat greens, eat healthy, eat clean.
And the eat healthies primarily published in the New England Journal, Mediterranean diet. What is that? It's swapping beef and pork, and instead the protein that's healthy for your heart and even can fight against cancer is fish and turkey and chicken and
lean
vegetables,
proteins.
Protein, vegetables, soups and salads, and extra virgin olive oil.
And now we know that so many foods do cause inflammation, and inflammation's what you look for.
That's exactly right, and the literature is completely full of cases where heart attacks and cancers are based on inflammatory responses.
And sugar is one of the guilty pleasures, unfortunately, that cause that as well, too.
Absolutely.
Well, John Duncan, always such a pleasure to see you and have you in studio. We did a Facebook Live, so if people go to Larry North, if they just tuned in, they can hear more of what you have to say, or just go to the website. I just tell people, go to the website, 123bodyscan.com. It's simple, it's easy, and again, thank you so much.
Larry, let's just remind the listeners of the special $6.95 for the body scan, and if you're a veteran, $5.95.
Wonderful. Well, please, as you always do, let me know when my listeners come in. It makes me feel good knowing that they're doing something good for themselves.
I'll definitely do it.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful and a spectacular weekend here at KLIF.